Section 1. The man behind the silence in a world saturated with noise. Elias Cross was a whisper. You wouldn't see him in paparazzi photos stumbling out of nightclubs. You wouldn't find him hosting Saturday Night Live or trending on TikTok for a funny dance. Elias Cross had made a name by staying invisible, and yet, paradoxically, the world couldn't stop talking about him. He had starred in just 6 films. That's it, 6. But every one of them had left an imprint on hearts that couldn't quite explain why. He didn't yell. He didn't shout. He rarely smiled. But when he looked at the camera, it was as though the entire weight of humanity rested quietly behind those weary, ash-gray eyes. And then, one day, he agreed to go on the Jimmy K show. No one knew why. There were rumors, of course. His agent bribed him. His therapist recommended it. He lost a bet. He was dying. The internet, in its usual form, hypothesized wildly. But the truth was far simpler. Elias had a reason, a deeply personal one. And though no one knew it yet, that reason would change everything. Section 2. Arrival at Studio 6B. The security team at Studio 6B didn't recognize him at first. That was the magic of Elias Cross. He had the aura of someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere all at once. Sir? You? Here for audience seating? The young intern stammered. Elias adjusted his scarf. It was June, but he wore it. Anyway, a soft charcoal loop that had once belonged to his late sister. No, I'm here for the chair. The chair? Elias offered a ghost of a smile. The one next to Jimmy. Oh. You're Elias Cross. The intern practically dropped their tablet. I didn't recognize you. Wow. Okay, right this way. Elias followed with quiet footsteps, nodding graciously at staffers and lighting techs who peeked curiously from behind cables. His energy was calm but heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Backstage, the green room smelled like honeydew, lavender oil, and nerves. Jimmy was still wrapping up his pre-show huddle, cracking jokes with writers and sipping on what was probably his 4th espresso of the day. When he heard Elias had arrived, he paused. Oh wow, really? Jimmy raised an eyebrow. Didn't think he'd actually come. His producer shrugged. He confirmed twice. Jimmy smiled, but there was a gleam in his eye. Not malicious, but mischievous. The kind of look a late-night host gets when they know they're about to crack open something intriguing. Part 1. Section 3. Curtain call. The opening monologue was Jimmy at his best, punchy, topical, crowd-pleasing. He poked fun at politicians, recapped the latest celebrity weddings, and even managed a hilarious impersonation of a raccoon in therapy. But the air shifted the moment he said, "Now folks, our next guest is someone you don't see often unless you count your dreams. He's a man of mystery soul and exactly 6 films, which is 5 more than I've finished watching on Netflix this month. Give it up for Elias Cross." The applause was polite at first, and then confused. Because Elias walked out differently. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He bowed his head briefly, acknowledging the audience as if he were entering a sacred space. He sat down across from Jimmy, crossed one leg over the other, and said softly, "Thank you for having me." The crowd was quiet, listening. Jimmy leaned in. "You know, when my team told me you were coming on, I thought it was a prank. Like, next you'd tell me Greta Garbo's ghost is doing karaoke in the next segment." Elias tilted his head. "She has a lovely voice." "A beat?" The audience laughed. Jimmy did too. Okay. So you're funny. Good to know." Elias, let me ask, why now? Why come on a talk show when you've spent the last decade avoiding publicity like I avoid salads? Elias looked up, and for a second you could hear the hum of the studio lights. "My brother," he said, voice barely above. A whisper. Jimmy blinked. Your brother? Elias nodded. He died 3 weeks ago. His name was Caleb. He always wanted to see me do one of these. Said I'd charm the hell out of America. A few soft murmurs stirred in the audience. And? Jimmy asked. Elias smiled. Not forced, not sad, but honest. I figured I owed him one. Section 4. Layers unraveling. The crowd softened. The jokes slowed. Jimmy, seasoned in the dance of tone shifting, adjusted quickly. I'm sorry for your loss, he said genuinely. Thank you. What was he like, your brother? Elias leaned back as if sorting through the Rolodex of memories. He was loud, he said. Very unlike me. He'd light up a room and set it on fire, metaphorically and once literally. He loved drawing. Superheroes, said I, reminded him of the quiet ones. Of the ones who didn't wear capes but kept the world from falling apart in the background. Jimmy leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. That's beautiful, thank you. He had schizophrenia. The last few years were hard, but he was still Caleb, still my hero. A pause, and then, without warning, Jimmy asked, So, where were you all these years? Hiding from fame? From fans? Or just allergic to deodorant commercials? Laughter again. A little forced this time. Elias didn't smile. He looked down at his hands, then back up. I was trying to survive, he said quietly. The laughter died. The room grew still. Jabs and landmines. There's a fine art to late-night interviews. Keep it breezy. Keep it fun. Sprinkle in a little deep for flavor, but not enough to drown the laughs. That's the code. That's the formula. But formulas are allergic to Elias Cross. The interview continued after the break. But the vibe had shifted like tectonic plates beneath a soon-to-erupt volcano. Jimmy tried to recalibrate. So Elias, he said, flashing that trademark grin, you've played everything from a time-traveling philosopher to a one-eyed cello player who could assassinate people using only Beethoven's Fifth. What's next? A silent monk who bakes cookies with vengeance? Elias didn't laugh. Instead, he looked dead into Jimmy's eyes and said, Do you always ask people to perform when they're grieving? You could feel the air freeze. One of the stagehands audibly choked on his Diet Coke. Jimmy chuckled nervously. Whoa, okay, that's a real talk. I was just trying to lighten the mood. You know, give the people something to smile about. The people smile too much when they should be listening, Elias said calmly. The world's on fire. We're dancing on the ash pile. Now, to be fair, Jimmy Kimmel had interviewed war veterans, grieving parents, people who'd survived tragedies and told their stories in front of a national audience. But he wasn't prepared for this kind of raw, not the quiet kind that creeps in, unblinking and unmoved. So he deflected. As comedians do best, if you're trying to win the most intense guest of 2025 award, your way. Ahead of Elon Musk talking about AI soul simulations. A few people laughed. A few winced. Elias? He didn't flinch. You're turning pain into punchlines, he said. That's the problem. You're giving people sugar when they need medicine. Ouch. Part 2. Section 2. The spark that lit it all. Now, here's where it got messy. Jimmy sat back in his chair, trying to keep it cool but visibly rattled. Double quotes. Hey, listen, I'm not a therapist. I'm a late-night host. People tune in after a long day to laugh, not to be emotionally waterboarded by monologues about despair. No offense. Elias nodded once, his jaw tightening. None taken. But maybe that's the issue. We bury grief in giggles, and we wonder why we can't breathe. Jimmy blinked. Are you saying comedy's the enemy? I'm saying disconnection is, Elias replied. You joke, I listen, you dodge. I dig. But this? He gestured to the cameras, the audience, the lights. This isn't a conversation. This is a transaction. The room grew icier than a vegan freezer aisle. Even the studio band had stopped fiddling with their instruments. Then Jimmy did something that shifted everything. He leaned forward, narrowed his eyes just slightly, and said, "You know, Elias, maybe you're right. Maybe we're not having a conversation. Maybe you just came here to turn this into a therapy session because the cameras were finally rolling for you." It was subtle. It was small, but it was a jab. Elias's face didn't change, not visibly, but a flicker crossed his eyes, like a wave crashing behind glass. "You think I want this attention?" he said, voice steady. "You think I wanted to sit in a makeup chair while producers prepped questions like I'm a monkey with a backstory?" Jimmy opened his mouth. Elias stood up. Live. On national television. Section 3. Walk-off. The audience wasn't sure whether this was part of the act. They clapped awkwardly, then stopped. Elias took off his scarf, the one his sister gave him, and folded it slowly in his hands. "I came here to honor my brother," he said, voice now quivering. He believed in kindness, in realness, in talking without pretending. He looked at the camera. "To anyone watching this, anyone who feels like the world doesn't hear them, you are not alone. Even if you whisper, you matter." And just like that, he walked off stage. No dramatic exit music. No applause sign. No commercial break in time to soften the blow. Just Elias Cross. Gone. Part 2, Section 4. Internet meltdown. Stage left. You know what happens when a celebrity does something unexpected. Twitter becomes a crime scene. Hashtag Elias walks, hashtag Kimmel clash, the whisper that shouted within minutes. The video clip had over 4 million views on YouTube. Was this a performance? Was Elias having a breakdown? Is Kimmel canceled or canonized? Is Elias secretly Batman? Everyone had a theory. No one had the truth. Even Jimmy seemed rattled. After the show, he walked back to his dressing room, hands shaking, ignoring his assistant's calls and texts from his publicist. He sat in front of the mirror and whispered to himself, "What the hell just happened?" Somewhere in a hotel room across town, Elias sat on the floor with his scarf in his lap, scrolling through the chaos online. His phone buzzed endlessly. Interviews, podcasts, apologies, memes, sympathy, outrage. But he ignored it all. He stared at one photo, him and his brother Caleb at the beach. A moment of quiet years ago, before the world got noisy again. 48 hours of white-hot noise if the human species ever develops a unit of measurement for internet chaos. The Elias Cross incident will earn its own prefix, 1ELIX-N, the amount of global frenzy produced when a chronically private celebrity invokes existential dread on live television. Then Irish exits the studio without so much as a free mug. Within the first 48 hours, 22 million views on the Raw clip. 11 late-night hosts scrambling to craft jokes that wouldn't get them canceled before their cold opens. A petition on change.org, titled, "Let Elias Finish His Sentence." No one really knew what sentence, but 70,000 signatures couldn't be wrong. And a brand new TikTok trend called #HashPileDance, teen stomp and gritty slow-mo to EDM while captions read, "We're dancing on the ash pile." Irony, 10/10. Meanwhile, the man himself? Gone. No press release. No text-to-speech apology posted to Instagram stories. The last breadcrumb was a blurry photo from lax security of a tall figure in a charcoal scarf boarding a red-eye. After that, the feed went dark. Digital detectives tried triangulating his Spotify activity, nothing since 2019. Scouring Venmo for pizza emoji zilch, even tracking smartwatch pings, the man was apparently allergic to step counts. The louder the hunt became, the quieter Elias seemed. Like any good magic trick, the secret was in where you didn't look. Section 2 Enter. The reluctant bloodhound Lena Torres was not supposed to be covering celebrity flare-ups. She was another award-winning investigative reporter who once exposed a bottled water company for literally bottling tap. But her managing editor kicked her inbox door down with one line: "Fine cross. Find the real story." 2 days later, Lena sat in a submarine quiet corner of a coffee shop, headphones on, scrubbing frame by frame through the exit footage of Studio 6B. She noticed something producers missed. When Elias folded his sister's scarf, he slid a tiny envelope into his inside pocket. The envelope bore a logo, a stylized robin perched on a violin bow. Lena's eyebrows did their best Spock impersonation. Click-clack. Lena typed "Robin Violin Logo Mental Health Nonprofit" into every search engine that wouldn't stalk her back. 10 minutes later, she struck gold. The Nightingale Project, a shoestring community center in Harlow Falls, Oregon, providing art therapy for at-risk youth. Population 6,375. Number of reliable Wi-Fi spots 2 if you squint. Why would Hollywood's Phantom hitchhike to a town whose claim to fame was world's quietest 4th of July fireworks show? They replaced booms with synchronized light bulbs to avoid scaring rescue dogs. Lena booked the next flight. Section 3 Small Town Ghost Protocol. Harlow Falls looked like a postcard printed on old flannel. Mist-soaked evergreens, a single main street, and locals who greeted strangers as though scanning for alien antennas. On day 1, Lena played the polite outsider. "Seen this man?" she asked, brandishing a glossy 8x10 of Elias. The librarian squinted, then shrugged. "Looks like our piano tuner, except our tuner talks more." Day 2, Lena switched tactics. She attended a Nightingale art show held in a repurposed barn that smelled of pine tar and watercolor dreams. Kids' canvases covered the walls. Swirling galaxies, faceless families, jagged hearts taped painstakingly back together. Midway through, a teenager in a hoodie maneuvered beside her. "You're looking for Eli, right?" the teen whispered, eyes flitting like a sparrow near a cat. "He doesn't like reporters." Lena's pulse hit the snare drum. "You know him? He knows us." The teen, Max, gestured to a quiet corner where 3 kids were arguing about whether glitter paint constituted a war crime. "He shows up late at night, teaches us how to talk with silence. I didn't get it until he made us paint for 10 minutes without brushes, just our hands. Haven't slept better in years. Where can I find him?" Max shrugged. "Honestly? He finds you when he thinks you're worth hearing." Cryptic Teens. Nature's Unsung Philosophers. Section 4. Stories of Quiet Heroism. The longer Lena stayed, the more breadcrumb stories fell into her lap. Mrs. Caldwell, the widow who discovered her heating oil tank mysteriously refilled after a brutal ice storm. She swore she caught a glimpse of a man with film set posture trudging away in the dawn. Charlie, the mechanic who found a new hydraulic lift delivered overnight, invoice paid in full under the name Caleb's brother. A stray dog that locals named Ashes because it seemed to rise from nowhere arrived at the shelter already vaccinated and microchipped. The vet recalled the Good Samaritan's charcoal scarf. Each act was small, uninstagrammable, and strictly word of mouth. It was as if Elias was trying to erase his headline by writing kindness and disappearing ink. Lena's story began tilting. Maybe the most newsworthy thing about Elias Cross was how hard he tried not to be newsworthy. Section 5. A whisper named Maya. On her 6th evening in town, Lena finally bumped into the ghost herself, or rather, herself. A 15-year-old girl named Maya Bishop. Setting: the Nightingale Project's music room. Dust-mote sunlight spearing through stained glass windows. Salvaged from a demolished church, Maya plucked hesitant notes on a battered guitar while Elias sat cross-legged opposite, listening like the music might bloom only if he breathed in sync. With it. When the melody ended, Maya caught Lena's reflection in the door window. She flinched, almost feral. Elias turned. For the first time, Lena felt the gravitational tug those ash-gray eyes were famous for, not charisma, exactly, but a quiet permission to exhale. He stood, scarf hanging like a long question mark. "Miss Torres," he said, voice low. "You came a long way to ask the wrong people the right questions." Lena swallowed her rehearsed pitch. "I came to understand why you walked off that stage. The world is buzzing." "The world," Elias replied, "is often a swarm without a queen. What matters is who gets stung." Maya nudged closer, protective. Elias rested a hand on her shoulder. "Maya is why I'm here, and why I stayed." The girl's eyes held both storm clouds and skylight. She whispered. He listened. When no one else did. Silence settled, thick as velvet. Lena asked softly, "Would you let me tell that story?" Elias exchanged a look with Maya. The teen gave an almost imperceptible nod. He sighed, the kind of sigh that sounds like doors unlocking. "One condition. The story belongs to them, the kids, not to me." Lena's smile was small but sincere. "Deal." Section 6. Hashtags turned to heartbeats when Lena's article hit the Chronicle's homepage 3 days later. The headline read, "The Whisper Refuge, How Elias Cross is Healing Kids in the Dark." She skipped clickbait, went long form. No. Pop culture snark. Just vignettes of Nightingale's fragile miracles. A stuttering boy composing piano pieces with thunderous confidence. A girl painting sunsets she hadn't believed she'd live to watch. The effect was immediate and bizarrely wholesome. Donations poured in, a flood of $5 tips from gig workers and a single $250,000 wire from a friend who loves capes. Mental health professionals offered pro bono hours. TikTok trend pivot. Hashtag Ashpile dance morphed into hashtag Ashpile pledge, where users posted one silent act of kindness, no captions allowed. The videos ended their 15-second runtime in deliberate, golden quiet. But the biggest ripple? Jimmy Kimmel posted a 3-minute video titled, "I Messed Up. Let's Fix This Together." Sitting in a darkened studio, no laugh track, he admitted he mistook vulnerability for shtick. He matched donations dollar for dollar for the next 72 hours and asked Elias, publicly, for a conversation offstage on equal footing. The clip ended with a simple line. "Sometimes the funniest thing you can do is shut up and listen." The internet, for once, clapped. Instead of clapped back. Section 7. The call at 3 a.m. Harlow Falls slept like a tired fox. In the pre-dawn hush, Elias's phone buzzed. He nearly ignored it, but Caleb's contact photo, a robin doodle, flashed insistently. He'd never deleted the number. The screen showed, "Unknown, forwarded from Caleb's archive." "Elias," answered static. Then a familiar voice, deeper, older, but unmistakable. "You can't carry every ember alone, Eli. Sometimes you have to let the firelight spread." His heart jackhammered. It was a snippet from a voicemail Caleb recorded years ago, forwarded by the phone company's auto system as part of a memories program. A cosmic accident? Perfect timing? Either way, the universe had a wicked sense of dramaturgy. He replayed it 3 times, the weight of it carving runes in his chest. By sunrise, he told Maya and Lena, "It's time to go back into the noise, but we set the volume." Plans began. An Empathy Summit livestream, kids front and center, Elias off to the side like the world's most stoic stagehand. And Jimmy? He'd agreed to lend his platform. No jokes, no commercial breaks, just dialogue. The storm would move again, but this time, the whisper would steer it. Section 1. The countdown begins. Okay, breathe in empathy. Breathe out stage. Fright. Maya Bishop muttered the mantra while pacing the splintered planks of Harlow Falls, abandoned roller rink temporary HQ for what the internet was already calling the Empathy Summit. The rink still smelled of bubblegum and teenage regrets. The disco ball wheezed overhead like it had seen one too many breakups to trust happiness again. The plan, in theory, was simple. Livestream a 3-hour program from Harlow Falls. The kids of the Nightingale Project not Elias front and center. Collect donations and, more importantly, commitments for acts of kindness. Log off before anyone tried to turn it into a Netflix docu-series without permission. In practice, cats playing bagpipes on ice skates would have been easier to coordinate. Weave. Got an hourglass with espresso instead of sand, Lena Torres groaned, waving a clipboard like a sword. Every media outlet west of Mars wanted a feed. Fiber optic cable had to be flown in by drone. Half the town volunteered routers, extension cords, and a solemn promise to avoid Netflix binging until the summit was over. Elias watched it all unfold with that trademark. Storm before dawn calm. When volunteers asked what title to put beneath his name on the event's webpage, he shrugged. Just listener-in-chief, they'll either get the joke or learn the lesson. Section 2. Recruiting small-town Avengers. If Harlow Falls had a bat signal, it would have been the hand-painted banner slung across Main Street, Empathiers Assemble. Friday at 6 p.m. PST, the entire population, all 6,375 souls and a conspicuously friendly golden retriever, mobilized. Mayor Patel loaned City Hall's generator, remarking, "If the grid crashes, at least it'll be for something kinder than Cyber Monday." Charlie the mechanic built a stage from reclaimed barn doors and 2 suspiciously sturdy Mustang axles. The high school chemistry club brewed a non-toxic fog effect. It smelled faintly of spearmint and extra credit. Maya, meanwhile, had graduated from girl in a hoodie to unofficial showrunner. She printed schedules, calmed jittery teen performers, and battled every "what if I freeze" panic attack with a dry quip. Freeze? Don't worry, the fog machines will handle that aesthetic. Elias hovered like a benevolent satellite, orbiting problems, nudging solutions. But he refused the spotlight despite Jimmy Kimmel's producers begging for a hero angle cam. "Heroes are overrated," he told them on a choppy Zoom. "We need mirrors, not capes." The call glitched. The producers blinked. Zoom quietly applauded the metaphor. Section 3. The night before at 2 a.m. Maya sat alone on the rink's neon-scarred floor, rehearsal over, silence thick. Elias padded over, 2 mugs of cocoa in hand. Couldn't sleep, she confessed. Stage. Jitters? World jitters. What if the internet laughs again? Elias handed her a mug. Then we sip cocoa and try again tomorrow. Kindness is a stubborn weed. It grows through cracks no matter who steps on it. She considered that. Do you still hear Caleb, even now? Elias's eyes softened. Sometimes in crowded rooms, sometimes in very quiet ones. Grief's funny, you think it's an anchor, then realize it's also the wind in the sails. Maya smirked. Mixed metaphor alert, blame the cocoa. He raised his mug. She clinked it. Somewhere outside, a barn owl who-hooed like it too. Needed a pep talk. Section 4. Showtime chaos. Okay, a hurting feelings. T-10 minutes. The livestream dashboard blinked angry red warnings. Bitrate unstable. Latency high. Probability of heart failure strong. Lena barked into a headset. Tell the chess club to stop playing online blitz games. Every kilobyte counts. Backstage, kids fidgeted like popcorn kernels in hot oil. Maya inhaled, exhaled, stepped up to the mic stand center stage. The disco ball whirred to life, scattering shards of rainbow. The fog hissed. Thousands of viewers flooded the stream numbers, climbing like a fever chart. "Welcome," Maya began, voice quavering then firming. "Tonight isn't about fame or apologies or who said what on late-night TV. It's about listening. Listening so hard the world feels heard." The chat exploded with heart emojis and the occasional Mary May Maya. The internet remains the internet. First up, Max performed an improvised piano piece titled Ashes Speak in Major Sevenths. Comments: "I'm crying, but it's jazzy." Then came spoken word poems, shadow puppet stories, a violin duet where one string intentionally stayed slightly out of tune, symbolizing, as the kid said, how life refuses auto-tune. Each act ended in 15 seconds of deliberate silence. Viewers were instructed to sit with what they felt. Analytics later showed zero drop-off during those pauses. People stayed, breathing with strangers. Section 5, Maya's moment and the whisper heard round the web. Final segment. Maya returned, cheeks glossy but unashamed. "When I ran away at 13, I thought silence meant safety." Elias taught me silence can also mean invitation. Tonight, I'm inviting you, yes, you scrolling on your phone while half watching this, to give someone else the last word for once. She glanced stage left. Elias stepped into one spotlight, scarf draped like a memory. He didn't speak. Instead, he unfurled a poster board, "Tell us your story, 30 sec max." The production team opened a live phone line. Callers had half a minute to share a moment of kindness they'd witnessed or received. No names, no plugs, just stories, highlights. A Detroit bus driver who detours nightly to drop groceries for an elderly passenger, no charge. A Seoul teenager teaching coding to refugee kids because JavaScript doesn't care about passports. A 92-year-old widow in Dublin knitting baby hats for NICU wards. Keeps the hands nimble and the heart warmer. 30 seconds each, ding and done. The effect was a global patchwork quilt of empathy stitched together in real time. The viewer count peaked at 9.4 million. Servers hiccuped but survived. Thank you, Chess Club. Section 6 Ripple Effects. AKA Good Trouble within 24 hours. $6.7 million raised for the Nightingale Project and partner youth centers worldwide. Hashtag last word kindness top trends. In 14 countries, companies pledged listening days, paid volunteer hours spent hearing community needs before writing any checks. Jimmy Kimmel tweeted a selfie wearing an Empathy hoodie captioned, "Loudmouth endorses Whisper." Tune in Monday. The ratio for once was mercifully positive. Meanwhile, the Harlow Falls post office required an extra truck. Letters arrived from every continent. Yes, even Antarctica, thanks, research station nerds. But the kids measured success differently. Ashes the dog got adopted live on stream by a family who'd lost their own pup. Their adoption application simply read, "We listened for a bark that sounded like hope. We heard one." Section 7, After the applause midnight. The rink was now a confetti-littered moonscape. Volunteers dozed in sleeping bags between amps. Lena typed her story under a handheld camping lamp. Elias sat in the bleachers, scarf over shoulders. Maya plopped beside him, triumphant exhaustion. In every slouch, "Think it worked?" she asked. He considered. "We added oxygen to a few embers. Tomorrow determines the wildfire." "Good wildfire," she corrected. "Good wildfire," he echoed. She nudged his arm. "You ready for the next step?" "Kimmel's reunion show?" Elias sighed, half amusement, half dread. "Ready as anyone holding a tinderbox on a comedy stage," Maya grinned. "Then let's keep the matches dry and the jokes kinder." They sat quietly, disco ball still turning lazy galaxies overhead. Both aware the hardest part of any storm is not the thunder, but the clearing sky that asks, "Now what?" Outside, Early dawn painted the parking lot lavender. Somewhere, a robin began to sing soft, persistent, nothing showy. A whisper with wings. The world, freshly tuned, listened. The quiet storm. The day the world heard the WHISP-1. The return of the whisper 6 weeks after the Empathy Summit turned Harlow Falls into a sanctuary for the soul. The world was ready for the sequel, not one with a dramatic plot, twist or cliffhanger ending, but one with a rare gift closure. Jimmy Kimmel had publicly invited Elias to return to his show. But not for laughs. Not for ratings. This time, Elias would speak uninterrupted, unedited, and unscripted. No punchlines, no interruptions. Just 20 minutes, prime time. The promo was simple. One man walked off. Now he's walking back on with a message for all of us. No dramatic music, just black text on white. Section 2. Jimmy's opening remarks, July 24, 2025. Studio 6B was packed, but the mood was reverent. The laugh sign had been disabled. The audience micked for ambient sound but told explicitly, "Tonight isn't a comedy. It's a conversation." Jimmy stepped out first, not behind his usual desk, but from center stage. "Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Tonight I'm not a host. I'm a guest in someone else's truth. A few months ago, I made a mistake. I mistook pain for performance. I tried to lighten a load that wasn't mine to carry, and in doing that, I added weight." He looked directly at the camera, no cue cards. "So now I've cleared the stage. The next 20 minutes belong to a man who taught us all something without needing to shout. Please welcome Elias Cross." The applause was soft but seismic in feeling. Section 3. The stage. Bare, but brimming. Elias stepped out, dressed in simple charcoal, shirt, pants, scarf. His hair a little longer, a little more silver at the edges. No music played. No graphics danced across the screen. A single wooden stool, one glass of water, and a microphone. He sat, adjusted the mic once. And then began. Section 4, the full transcript of Elias Cross's speech title. The Language of Quiet, from YouTube. Elias Cross live at Studio 6B, 13.2 M views and counting. Hello. You probably know me as the guy who walked off this stage. Maybe you thought I was rude, or fragile, or making a statement. The truth is simpler and more complicated than that. I walked off because I wasn't being heard, but more than that, because I wasn't listening either. Not fully, not patiently. I let grief speak louder than grace. And grace deserves the mic too. My brother Caleb used to say that everyone carries a backpack of invisible bricks. Some are labeled grief, some are anxiety, others just say this morning was hard, and I'm trying my best. We're all lugging those packs. But the tragedy is, we walk past each other pretending we're weightless. We don't need more noise. We need more pauses. I was raised to believe silence was awkward. Something to fill. Something to fix. But Caleb taught me that silence is sacred. It's the moment just before a flower opens or just after someone says, "I'm sorry," and means it. In my films, I was often the quiet one. People said it was compelling, but that wasn't acting. That was me surviving. I didn't know how to speak without shaking. So I learned how to whisper with my eyes, but now I want to try again. With words. With voice. And here's what I want to say. If someone in your life is quiet, don't assume they're okay. If someone in your life is loud, don't assume they're not hurting. If someone walks off your stage, maybe ask what weight they were carrying. I'm not here to cancel laughter. Laughter is medicine. But sometimes, medicine isn't meant to be swallowed with a joke. I believe in kindness. Not the syrupy, bumper sticker kind. The radical, inconvenient, time-consuming kind. I believe in sitting with someone's silence and not rushing to fill it. I believe in listening so deeply that the other person feels like they've been seen for the first time. I believe in the power of one whisper to reach a soul the world has forgotten. That's what I'm doing now. Whispering to you. Not as a celebrity, not as a guest. Just as one human to another. Your life matters. Your quiet matters. And if all you did today was survive, I'm proud of you. Thank you for listening. End of transcript. Section 5. The aftermath in real time, the silence that followed was so profound, it trended. Literally. Hashtag 10-second silence. Users across platforms joined in, recording 10 seconds of nothing but breath, ambient sound, or stillness. Each clip ended with one line, "I'm listening." Back in Studio 6B, Elias stood and simply nodded to Jimmy. No handshake, no pat on the back. Just mutual respect. Jimmy, visibly emotional, mouthed, "Thank you." Then they walked offstage together. No outro music. Just the slow fade of lights dimming. Section 6. A world reacts. The New York Times ran the headline. The man who whispered and was heard. The Atlantic called it a masterclass in humility, humanity, and hushed healing. Even Variety managed. Elias Cross delivers ratings gold without saying much at all. More importantly, the Nightingale Project's donations doubled overnight, and dozens of new empathy clubs formed across schools in the U.S., Canada, Japan, Nigeria, and even Chile. A university in Sweden created an elective course called The Sociology of the Whisper. Meanwhile, Maya Bishop, still grinning from her kitchen table in Harlow Falls, finally set up her own YouTube channel. Her first video was 3 minutes long. She titled it, "How to Speak Loudly with Nothing But Your Hands, a Sign Language Tutorial for Youth with Trauma-Induced Mutism." It hit 1.6 million views by midnight. Section 7. One more thing. A week later, Elias received a letter, handwritten, no return address. Inside a single page. "You gave me permission to whisper. I used to scream into pillows just to hear something. Now I sit with myself. It's not easy, but it's mine. Thank you for being my mirror." JK. He folded it slowly, then lit a candle. Whispered Caleb's name into the quiet. No applause. Just peace. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The quiet storm. The day the world heard the WHISP. Section 1. The setup. Return to Studio 6B. Round 2. A month after Elias's speech turned Studio 6B into a cathedral of empathy, Jimmy Kimmel extended a second invitation, this time for a live, unscripted sit-down. No jokes. No desk. Just 2 chairs, 1 conversation, and no commercial breaks. Title of the segment, Across the Silence. The press predicted disaster. Twitter was 1 part hopeful, 2 parts nervous, and 5 parts crafting memes involving Jimmy and Elias as dramatic lovers in a TELENOVELA. But Elias agreed, not because he wanted the spotlight, because, as he told Maya, sometimes the last wound left is the handshake you haven't offered yet. And so, the stage was cleared. No band, no monologue. Just raw honesty under soft white lights. Section 2. Opening the door, gently. In from black, Jimmy sat alone. "Good evening. Tonight isn't about ratings. It's about reckoning. Not the kind where people get canceled. The kind where people get changed. I'm not here to redeem myself. I'm here to reconcile." Then Elias entered. Same charcoal scarf. Same storm-still posture. But something was lighter in his face. Like the wind was finally at his back. The crowd gave gentle applause, no standing ovation, no hype. Just human respect. They sat across from each other. Two men once caught in a storm, now building a bridge plank by plank. Jimmy went first. Before anything else, I'm sorry. For what? Elias asked, not aggressively. Just directly. Jimmy swallowed. For using your grief as a trampoline. For trying to make your pain bounce when I should have just let it land. Elias nodded once. You were doing your job. No, Jimmy said. I was doing a job, but not the right one for that moment. And you taught me the difference. A silence followed. But unlike last time, no one rushed to fill it. Elias finally said, thank you. And with that, tension turned to tissue, metaphorically, and, for at least one audience member in the front row, very literally. Section 3. The unplanned pivot. Maya joins the table halfway through the segment. Jimmy turned to the audience. There's someone else who belongs at this table. Someone who's not just part of Elias's story, she's writing her own. Maya walked out, confident, focused, wearing a denim jacket covered in hand-drawn heart patches, one of them, a stitched robin with a tiny crown. The applause was real and immediate. Not celebrity cheers. Human ones. She sat beside Elias, gave him a quick side hug, and then looked straight at Jimmy. Hi, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for saying yes, Jimmy replied, smiling. I almost didn't. Why's that? Maya shrugged. I didn't know if this was a table that could hear someone like me. And now? Now I realize the problem wasn't the table. It was who was doing all the talking. The audience didn't clap. They just listened. And that was the point. Section 4. Real talk. The conversation that needed to happen. Jimmy leaned in. What do we do now? After all this? I mean, we've made the headlines, sure. But how do we keep this from being a moment? Elias, by making space. Not just online. In our schools. In our homes. In the way we speak to cashiers, to the guy on the bus, to ourselves. Maya added, start with silence and with questions. Ask people how they actually are, and mean it. Jimmy rubbed his face. Man, I spent 15 years teaching America to laugh at 11:30 p.m. Now, I just want to teach it to ask better questions at dinner. Elias smiled. That's a great punchline. They all laughed. Not the kind of laughter that chases discomfort. Out of the room, the kind that lets it sit there and just be seen. Section 5. A letter. Read aloud. Jimmy surprised them both. I got a letter this morning, he said. From a viewer who watched the Empathy Summit, then your speech, then decided to share their story. They asked me to read it out loud tonight. He unfolded a simple, handwritten letter. Dear Elias, I didn't know silence could be holy. I used to be afraid of it, thought it meant loneliness or failure. But after watching what you and Maya did, I turned off my phone for the first time in a week and sat with my dad. We didn't talk. Just listened to birds for 20 minutes, he cried after. So did I didn't know healing could sound like robins. Thank you. Alyssa, 17, Kansas. Maya wiped her eyes. Elias closed his, like the words were music he hadn't known he needed to hear. Section 6. The pact to close the episode. Jimmy offered something rare. Accountability. I've set up a new segment starting next month. He sighed. It's called The Last Word, 5 minutes at the end of every Friday show, where a young person gets to talk uninterrupted about something that matters. No punchlines, no edits. Maya blinked. Seriously? He nodded, and we'd love you to be the first. Maya looked to Elias. He gave a simple nod. Then I'm in, she said. But only if you promise not to play me off with the band. Jimmy grinned. Deal. Section 7. Exit, not stage left, but forward as the credits rolled. No music, just soft ambient sound and hand-drawn animations from Nightingale Project artists. The three of them stood together, not a press event, not a PR stunt, just three People who collided, clashed, and chose compassion over comfort. As they walked off stage, Maya asked, "Think anyone watched?" Elias replied, "Doesn't matter." Jimmy added, "But they did. And they will." Outside, the city buzzed. Life carried on. But something had shifted. A whisper had become a wave. Not loud, but wide. Deep. Unstoppable. Section 1. 10 years later, the world had changed. Not in giant, neon-lettered ways. No overnight revolutions. No massive political upheavals. No Academy Award for most feelings processed in a single sitcom appearance. But quietly, like frost melting under morning sun, the culture shifted. Empathy wasn't a buzzword. Listening wasn't a soft skill. And kindness wasn't a branding gimmick. It was the blueprint. All because a man once walked off a stage and then came back. Section 2. The foundation. The Caleb Cross Foundation had grown from one barn in Harlow Falls to a global network of creative sanctuaries. Their motto? Whispers can move mountains. Each branch had 3 rules. Everyone gets the last word at least once. Silence is never awkward. It's honored. No one heals alone. The foundation's logo, designed by Maya herself, was a robin perched on a cello string. Underneath, "Play gently." In the 10 years since its launch, over 40,000 youth had gone through Nightingale workshops. 3,000 plus empathier clubs formed in high schools. Universities offered full scholarships to teens who'd led listening projects in their communities. Therapists and artists teamed up to co-author children's books like The Day My Feelings Took a Nap, and Why Mom's Crying Doesn't Mean She's Broken. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was. But it was. Better. And better was worth everything. Section 3. Maya the Lighthouse. Maya Bishop, now 25, stood behind a podium in Geneva. The Global Youth Compassion Conference was streaming live in 38 languages, 12 sign languages, and yes, even Morse code. Don't ask. But it's beautiful. She wore a sharp gray blazer over a hoodie, just to mess with people. Her speech was titled, "If You're Still Here, You've Already Won." In it, she told stories from shelters and quiet corners, talked about how silence isn't absence, it's invitation. She ended her talk with a tribute. "Elias Cross didn't make me louder. He made the world quieter until I felt safe enough to speak." The applause afterward didn't shake the rafters. It shook hearts. Backstage, a journalist asked her, "Did you ever expect your story to go this far?" Maya smiled. "Stories don't go far. People do." Section 4. The final interview just before Elias passed, quietly, surrounded by candles, art, and Maya reading aloud from Winnie the Pooh. He sat down for a final conversation. Not for a documentary. Not for a magazine spread. Just for the record. He was 62. His hair was silver white, and his scarf was still stitched with tiny robin feathers at the fringe. The interviewer, a college student named Joe, asked, "Do you ever regret walking off that stage?" Elias smiled. "Not once." That moment wasn't a failure. It was an opening. And sometimes you have to leave the room before people realize the room needs rebuilding. What do you want your legacy to be? He shrugged. "I don't believe in legacies. I believe in echoes. If someone listens more deeply because of me, even once, that's enough." Any last advice for the world? He leaned closer to the mic. "Speak gently. And when in doubt, let someone else have the last word." Section 5. The letter. Elias passed away in his sleep on a rainy morning in Harlow Falls. He'd left behind one envelope, labeled, "To be read after the thunder." Inside was a handwritten letter. Maya read it aloud at a candlelit memorial. In the same roller rink where it all began. Here is the letter, in full, Elias Cross. Final letter. To those still whispering, I never planned to become anyone's symbol. I just didn't want to lie on television. But what I've learned over years of silence, of art, of late-night cocoa and birdwatching with Maya is this: the world isn't saved by grand speeches. It's saved by held hands. By take your time. By sitting on the floor with someone and saying, "Me too." We're not here to fix each other. We're here to witness each other. I don't know what the world looks like as you read this. I hope it's softer. But if it isn't, keep whispering. Keep watching for robins. And remember, you don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to mean it. Yours in quiet rebellion, Elias Cross. Section 6. A world still listening following Elias's passing. People worldwide participated in the quiet hour, a global moment of silence practiced at the same time across time zones. Schools, businesses, governments. 1 hour, no talking. Just presence. Some prayed. Some painted. Some just breathed. The social media feed wasn't hashtags that day. It was photos of empty desks, candlelit windows, and handwritten signs reading, "We're still listening." One viral post showed a newborn baby swaddled in a scarf identical to Elias's. The caption read, "Born during the quiet hour. Her name is Robin." Section 7. The legacy continues now. Maya leads the foundation, but insists it runs like a potluck, not a monarchy. She speaks around the world, but always returns to Harlow Falls. The roller rink is now the Whisper Hall, a museum and sanctuary. It contains Elias's scarf, donated by Maya, Caleb's sketchbook, a constantly updated wall of handwritten stories, mailed from every country on earth, from prisoners, parents, nurses, refugees, comedians, artists, teens, all whispering their truths. And once a year, they host the Echoes Festival. Has no opening ceremony, no headliner, no noise, just a field of people sitting together, listening to the wind, to each other, to themselves. Final lines. The end of the storm. Some stories end with a bang. This one ends with a whisper, but maybe that's how all great things begin, not with noise, but with notice. With someone finally saying, "I hear you," and someone else whispering back, "Thank you." The end.